Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm going to be reading chapter 3 from The Flame of a Candle by Gaston Bachelard. Chapter 3, The Verticality of Flames. Above, light drops its close. Octavio Paz, Eagle Sun. 1. Among the reveries that make us feel lighter, reveries of height are the simplest and most effective. All upright objects point to a zenith. An upright form soars up and carries us along in its verticality. Conquering a real summit remains on the level of an athlete. The dream goes higher. It carries us into the beyond, into verticality. Many dreams of flight are born from an attempt to rival the verticality possessed by upright and vertical things. Near towers and trees, a dreamer of heights dreams of the sky. Reveries of height nourish our instinct for verticality, an instinct repressed by the obligations of common life, of flatly horizontal life. Verticalizing reverie is the almost liberating of reveries. There is no surer way of dreaming well than to dream of somewhere else. But of all such places, is not this place somewhere above us, the critical one? Dreams occur in which above forgets or suppresses below. Living at the zenith of the upright object, gathering reveries of verticality, we experience a transcendence of being. Images of verticality make us enter the realm of values. To communicate with the verticality of an upright object through the imagination is to enjoy the advantages of essential forces. It is to participate in the hidden fire that dwells in beautiful forms, forms self assured in their verticality. I developed this theme of verticality extensively in a chapter of Air and Dreams. In this chapter can be seen the entire background of our present reveries on the flame's verticality. 2. The simpler their subject, the greater the reveries. The flame of the candle on the table of a solitary man prepares the way for all reveries of verticality. The flame is a valiant and fragile verticality. A breath disturbs it, but it rights itself. Essential forces reasserts its own prestige. A line from Trackle says, "The candle burns high and its crimson rears up." The flame is an inhabited verticality. Everyone who dreams of a flame knows that the flame is alive. Its verticality is guaranteed by its sensitive reflexes. As soon as an accident of combustion disturbs the elan of its zenith, the flame reacts. One who dreams of verticalizing will, who learns the lesson of the flame, realizes that he must right himself. He rediscovers the will to burn high, to go with all his strength to the summit of fervor. Fervor. He rediscovers the will to burn high, to go with all his strength to the summit of fervor. And what a great moment, what a beautiful moment results when the candle burns properly. What delicacy of life in the flame that lengthens and tapers off. Then the values of life and of the dream are united. A stem of fire. Are we ever aware of all that is fragrant? Says the poet. Yes, the stem of the flame is so straight and so frail that the flame is a flower. Images and things thus exchange their properties. For someone dreaming of a flame, the entire room takes on an atmosphere of verticality. A gentle but unfailing dynamism draws dreams to their summit. One may well be interested in the innermost vortex that surrounds the wick. See, in the body of the flame, the stirrings of the struggle between darkness and light. But everyone who dreams of a flame elevates his dream toward the summit. There, fire becomes light. Villiers de Adam used this Arabian proverb as epigraph for a chapter of his Isis. Villiers de Adam used this Arabian proverb as epigraph for a chapter of his Isis. The torch does not illuminate its base. The greatest dreams are at the summit. The flame is so essentially vertical that it appears, for one who dreams about existence, to be stretched toward transcendence, toward an ethereal non-existence. In a poem entitled Flame, we read, "Bridge of fire flung between real and unreal, continuous coexistence of being and non-being. To play at being and non-being with a mere nothing, with a flame, and perhaps only an imaginary one at that, is, for a philosopher, a fine moment of illustrated metaphysics. But every soul with depth has its personal realm of transcendence. The flame illustrates every form of transcendence. Looking at a flame, Claudel wonders whence matter takes flight to wing itself into the category of the divine. If I had accorded myself the right to meditate on liturgical themes, I would have no trouble finding documents concerning the symbolism of flames. I would then have to face scholarship. I would go beyond the plan of my little book, which must be content to grasp symbols in their outlines. Whoever wants to enter the world of symbols that fall under the sign of fire can refer to the great work of Carl Martin Edsman, Ignis Divinus. 3. In my preliminary chapter, I refuse to worry over scholarship in scientific experiments with the phenomena of flames. I did my best to stay within the homogeneity of reveries that imagine, reveries of a solitary dreamer. One cannot be two persons and dream profoundly of a flame. The artless observations of Goethe and Eckermann, made together as master and disciple, do not lead to thought. Their observations cannot be repeated with the seriousness appropriate to scientific research, nor do they provide us an opening onto that philosophy of the cosmos which had such a great effect upon German Romanticism. To show immediately how, with Novalis, one moves from physics based on facts to physics based on values, I shall offer a commentary on the short model that appears in a minor edition, Licht Light makes fire. In its German form, the three-syllable sentence goes so quickly. It is such a rapid arrow of thought that common sense does not immediately feel its wound. All we know from everyday life enjoins us to read the sentence in reverse. Normally, one lights a fire in order to make light. The challenge of the sentence can be met only by adhering to a cosmology of values. The three-syllable sentence, Lichtmachtfeuer, is the first act of an idealistic revolution in the phenomenology of the flame. It is one of the pivotal sentences that a dreamer repeats to himself to condense his conviction. I imagine I hear for hours on end the three syllables on the poet's lips. An idealist's proof would not be out of the way. For Novalis, the ideality of the light must explain the material action of fire. Novalis's fragment continues, Lich it der Genius der Feuer possesses. Light is the genius of the fire process. This is the most serious of all statements for a poetics of material elements, since the primacy of light deprives fire of its power as absolute subject. Fire receives its real existence only at the conclusion of the process of becoming light, when, through the agonies of the flame, it has been freed of all its materiality. If this reversal of causality were deciphered in the flame, the tip would be the storehouse of its activity. Purified at the tip, light draws from the entire taper. The light then is the true driving force, determining the essential being of the flame. The main principle of Novalis' idealizing cosmology is to take account. The main principle of Novalis' idealizing cosmology is to take account of values in the activity itself. Where they are more than facts, they discover their being by rising. The main principle of Novalis' idealizing cosmology is to take account of values in the activity itself. Where they are more than facts, they discover their being by rising. All idealists find in meditating upon a flame the same essential stimulation. Claude de Saint Martin writes, "The movement of the mind is like that of fire. It is created as it rises." 4. Coordinating all the fragments in which Novalis evokes the verticality of flames, one could say that everything upright, everything vertical in the cosmos is a flame. Speaking more dynamically, we could say everything that rises possesses a flame's dynamics. The reverse, only slightly less exaggerated, is clear. The reverse, only slightly less exaggerated, is clear. Novalis writes, "In the flame of a lamp, all natural forces are active. Flames constitute the very being of an animal life." And inversely, Novalis notes the animal nature of the flame. The flame is in some way a naked animality, a kind of excessive animal. It is the glutton par excellence. Das Gaufrage. It is the glutton par excellence. These aphorisms, fragments found everywhere in his work, demonstrate the direct character of his convictions. These are reverie truths that only an experiment of profound wonderism, resulting more from dreaming than reflecting, can demonstrate. Each of the biological kingdoms of life consequently corresponds to a particular type of flame. In the fragments translated by Maternlinic, we read, "The tree can only become a flowering flame, man a speaking flame, the animal a wandering flame." Paul Claudel, apparently without having read Novalis' text, writes similar lines. For him, life is a fire. Life stores its fuel in the plant, which is ignited in the animal, the vegetable or elaboration of the combustible matter, the animal or the condition of ignited matter providing for its own living, says Claudel in the summary. That is prelude to his story. If the vegetable can be defined as the combustible substance, the animal is burning substance. The animal maintains its form by burning whatever it needs to satisfy the hunger for fire concealed in it. For Novalis, as well as Claudel, the dogmatic tone of this model-like cosmology will keep the erudite philosopher at a distance. It is different when such aphorisms are set in the framework of a poetics Here, the flame is creative. It gives us poetic intuitions that make us participate in the inflamed life of the world. The flame is thus a living substance, a poeticizing substance. The most diverse beings are made substantive by the flame. Only an adjective is necessary to make them more specific. A cursory reader will perhaps see no more here than stylistic play. But if he participates in the inflammatory intuition of a poetic philosopher, he will understand that the flame is the source for a living creature. Life is a fire. To know its essence, one must burn in communion with the poet. To know its essence, one must burn in communion with the poet. To use an expression of Henry Corbin, we could say that Novalis's formulas tend to raise meditation to incandescence. 5. But there is a dynamic image through which a meditation on flames gains a sort of élan vital that can heighten life, prolong it beyond itself despite all the failings of ordinary matter. Novalis's Fragment 271 summarizes an entire philosophy of flame life, of the life flame. The art of leaping beyond oneself is everywhere the highest act. It is life's point of origin, the genesis of life. The life is nothing other than an action of this sort. Thus, philosophy begins at the point where the philosophizer philosophizes himself. That is to say, where he consumes and renews himself. In a revised version of his text, Novalis brings together the two meanings of the verb verzieren, to consume and to consummate. Verzieren, to consume and to consummate. He points to the transition in flame activity from determined to determining, from a satisfied being to one that lives out its freedom. A being becomes free by consuming itself in order to be renewed, by taking on the destiny of a flame, and especially by welcoming the destiny of a super flame which glistens above its very tip. But before philosophizing, perhaps one should look again. Perhaps, failing that, one should reimagine that rare phenomenon of the fireplace, the peaceful flame which throws off flying sparks that float lighter and freer within the cloak of the chimney. I have often seen this spectacle in dreary vigils. I have often seen this spectacle in dreamy vigils. Sometimes my good grandmother, with a hemp stalk deftly held above the flame, would rekindle the slow smoke that ascended the length of the blackened hearth. The lazy fire does not always burn all the elixirs of the wood at once. Smoke leaves the shining flame reluctantly. The flame had much more to burn. In life, too, there are many things to re-inflame. And when the super flame had come back to life, my grandmother would say to me, "See, my child, these are the Firebirds." So I, further elaborating in dreams what she had said, believed that these birds of fire had their nest at the heart of the log, well hidden beneath the bark and the tender wood. This nesting place, the tree, in the course of its growth, had created this cozy nest where the beautiful firebirds nestled. In the heat of a great fireplace, time had just hatched and flown away. I would be dubious about telling my own dreams and distant memories if the primary image, the flame that leaps above itself and continues burning, were not a true image. Charles Noder saw this flame that overleaps itself, that has a new momentum beyond its first momentum, beyond its tip. He speaks of those dreamed of fires that fly above torches and candelabra when the cinder that produced them had already cooled. For Noder, this surviving, hovering, survivante, survolante flame illustrates a remote comparison. For Noder, this surviving, hovering flame illustrates a remote comparison. He speaks of a time when only love lived above the social world, like those fires that make a purer light above the torches. For a Novalis dreamer of animalized flames, the flame, because it flies, is a bird. Where else will you take the bird than into the flame? Asks a young poet. In my dreams and in my games at the hearth, I was thus quite familiar with this domestic phoenix, the most ethereal phoenix of all, not reborn from its ashes, but from his mere smoke. But when a rare phenomenon is the basis of an extraordinary image, an image that fills the soul with immeasurable dreams, to whom or to what must it provide reality? A physicist will answer. Faraday used this experiment with a candle relit from its own smoke as the subject of a popular lecture. This lecture is one among several that Faraday gave during some evening courses and collected under the title History of a Candle. To perform the experiment, one must blow very softly on the candle, then quickly relight the vapor, and only the vapor, without disturbing the wick. Half knowing, half dreaming, I would answer in this way. To perform Faraday's experiment successfully, one must act quickly because real things do not dream long. One must not allow the light to fall asleep. One must hasten to awaken it.